Hello and welcome back to my funny little channel. One of the videos I'd planned to make this year was my 1500 mile review of the Scram 411, but given that I've traded it for the XT250, it's still kind of plan on doing the review, but it will be for about 1400 miles and it will be a little light on video content. So without further ado, here we go. Is this review unbiased? No. I really like the Scram. Is the review honest? Yeah, very. I'm not sponsored by Royal Enfield and neither am I in any way compensated for this. Besides, I'm pretty sure within the next year or two you won't be able to get any of these from dealers. Of course that's speculation on my part, but given that the Himalayan has changed over to the new version of the Himalayan, I suspect the Scram is going to disappear fairly soon. I had owned the Royal Enfield Scram for just over a year, managed to put about 1400 miles on it before I traded it. So what do I think about the bike? Well, I liked it enough to name it Happy Little Spud because this thing just chugs along, never in a hurry, just tractors everywhere it goes. As I said in my video of the Triumph Scrambler, I'm much more pedestrian of a rider than I used to be, so the little 411 single-cylinder engine mostly worked for me. I've seen a lot of reviews where people talk about the lack of horsepower, and of course on the highway that is an issue. Here in Colorado the highway speed limits are 75 mile an hour, roughly 120 kilometers an hour, and the Scram won't really sustain that sort of speed for any length of time, and honestly it's not made for it. Highways are not what the Scram was designed for. So what was the Scram designed for? Well, surface roads, back roads. If you're in the UK you'll understand what I mean by some A roads, but mostly B roads. Also remember, this is effectively a Royal Enfield Himalayan or Himalayan, depending on how you pronounce it where you're from, and it has an off-road pedigree. The 19-inch front wheel is not for single track or anything like that, but dirt, gravel, logging roads, ATV trails, all fair game for the Scram. The engine's only 24 horsepower, but this was enough to get my fat ass up a very dodgy road to the top of Mount Blue Sky in Colorado. That was 14,130 feet. Or 4,306 meters. Not too shabby, and honestly didn't feel like it was struggling. The only thing I didn't like about the Scram engine, other than the lack of power, which sometimes was an issue, is that it revved out really easily in second. You could find yourself bouncing off the rev limiter. And the engine makes the weirdest squeaking noise, but apparently they all do that. The Himalayans do it, the Scram does it, same engine. It's a really weird kind of squeaking noise, but yeah, they all do it. With all that said, I mean, it is a simple 2-valve long-stroke engine. It's extremely reliable, as many other YouTubers will attest to. There are plenty of folks out there who have taken their Himalayans very long distances. The most famous, of course, is Itchy Boots, but there's several others out there as well. Kamikaze Moto, Northbound ADV. I was still running the stock tyres on it without any problems. Would I have changed them out if I'd kept the bike? Probably not. Most of the riding I did was on road. There are some gravel and dirt roads around here which I would take it down, but mostly just ordinary roads bopping around town. So no, I would have kept the existing tyres. They're perfectly adequate on the road, and you know, I do ride like an old man because I am one, so the existing tyres would have been fine. I would rather have had tubeless tyres, but frankly doesn't really matter. And I really like the look of the spoked wheels. The brakes were, should we say, interesting. I've heard people say they're wooden and not all that good. Yeah, they're not the best, but they work just fine. If you're going too fast and have to brake really hard, they might feel a little insufficient. But if you ride reasonably, take conditions into account, I've not had an issue with them so far. And in fact, the back brake worked really well. The one thing I did consider doing was replacing the front pads, but that would have been once they wore out, and 1400 miles wasn't enough to wear them out. Handling and comfort was pretty good. The bike handles like an inexpensive do-it-all bike should handle. It has a little fork dive, it's not too bouncy. The stock seat was great. I could sit on that quite happily for a long period of time. I've done several consecutive hours on the bike with no issues caused by the seat. The bike is tall for me, but not too tall that I can't flat-foot it with 1 foot if I Captain Morgan the thing. And the bars were in the perfect position for me. I didn't have to adjust them at all. Pegs were in the right place. I think that might be the reason why I had no issue with the seat. I know others have said it's uncomfortable. I have short legs and a tall body, so maybe that's why I found it so comfortable. I did make some modifications to the bike. I added SW Motec luggage racks and soft luggage. That worked really well. I also have the Royal Enfield hand guards, which was used mostly just for keeping the wind off my hands. And an inexpensive Amazon dual USB supply, which also worked very well and acted as a voltmeter. I raised the front fender a little, which was a really easy job to do. I used some 20mm spacers and got some longer bolts, and I thought that made it look rather nice. And I also removed the chiclets, those odd-shaped pieces of plastic that sit either side of the fuel tank, and I did that because I wanted to see how all that went together. It's the engineer in me. I have to take things apart just to figure out how they work. And why Royal Enfield put them there. And obviously that's part of the Himalayan build. The Himalayan front racks bolt onto the cross piece that goes through the frame there. That had to come out as well once I took the chiclets off. But for the Scram, they really serve no purpose, and I liked the look of the bike without them, and I'm sure I removed probably a pound or 3 on weight. Wouldn't really make that much difference, it's mostly cosmetic. Let's talk a little about cruising on the highway with no windscreen. I think I did it twice on that bike. As previously mentioned, it's not really up to that, but riding the twisty mountain roads and the back roads is where this bike really shined, and a screen would be superfluous for that, not really needed. Maybe if you have a Scram and you're doing longer distances with it, you might want to add a screen there, but I didn't think I needed one. I liked the instrument cluster. Bright, simple, with the analog speedometer, no rev counter, didn't really need a rev counter, and simple LCD info. It was pretty bright at night too, maybe a little too bright. Perhaps it needs a dimmer on it. With that said though, the tripper I found to be a pain in the ass, and I could never get it working properly. I tried it with the app, it says it's connected, but it really didn't do anything. The navigation didn't work. I could make a whole video on that, and honestly, if I still had the bike, I probably would do. Anyway, that just about wraps it up for this video. Please like and subscribe and do all that stuff if you would, and I'll see you in the next video.